This is a presentation about Diigo. Diigo is a social bookmarking tool. Diigo stands for Digest of Internet Information Groups and Other Stuff. And I just want to start this presentation by saying that I wish that they had Diigo when I was in high school and when I was doing my undergraduate work. It's just an unbelievable tool. You can bookmark pages, you can highlight information, you can organize it. It would have made my research so much easier to follow. What is social bookmarking? Social bookmarking services are centralized online services. They allow users to add, annotate, edit, and share bookmarks of web documents. Some social bookmarking services that you may be familiar with are Pinterest, Zotero, Delicious, and Diigo, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why should I use Diigo? Can't I just bookmark web pages to my browser? Well, you could, but that would be an awful lot of work. You'd have to bookmark the page, create files, and none of that is searchable. You just have to look at this drop-down menu every single time and try to find the page that you're looking for. All of that just sounds exhausting to me. It just makes me want to lie down and take a nap. Well, let's look at it of social bookmarking. Diigo bookmarks are available on any computer. If you bookmark something to your browser, is it only available on the computer that you are using at the time that you bookmark the page. Because Diigo is saved on the actual website, on the website server, you can use your Diigo bookmarks anywhere. Social bookmarks are searchable. You can actually go in and search by the keywords that you assign. You can search by the highlights that you make. Any number of things are searchable. All of your social bookmarks can be highlighted, tagged, annotated. There are any numbers of things that you can do for them. You can organize them. It's just an unbelievable tool. As I mentioned before, all your highlights, tags, and annotations are searchable in and of themselves. And research can be shared with an entire network. Think about your students within a class. You can share them with other teachers if you're collaborating on a project. You can even share with parents if you wanted to create groups that parents could be a part of. Let's look at some of the functions and features of Diigo. Firstly, you can use Diigo to search for information and do research for projects. Obviously, you can use it to bookmark web pages. You can highlight text, graphics, images, any number of things that you can use for research later. You can create sticky notes. They're these little post-it notes that you put onto the web pages that can help you remember, why was I even looking at this thing in the first place? There's a read later function. You don't have time to look at a web page right now, but you think it might be pretty important. You can mark it to read later, and then it'll save it, and you can access it later time. You can create a list. You can create a list of resources that students can use, that other teachers can use, any number of people can access, and they now have a list of resources that you have collected. And finally, you can create a group. You can create a group of students that all collaborate on a project together, and they can all give resources that they can then work off of together. So we'll start with doing a basic search. Now, you do not have to be a member of Diigo to search the available content. So what follows is a basic demonstration of how to do a Diigo search. Now let's go over the Diigo toolbar. When you sign up for Diigo, it gives you options to create a full toolbar. It's the Chrome extension or the Firefox extension. Or you can create a Diigo toolbar. Diigo is nice because it's just the basic stuff that you need. It's a good way to get started. So we'll do the Diigo toolbar. It looks something like that. Those are the 4 basic items that you're going to see on the Diigo toolbar. First of all, you can highlight. can highlight text or images on any web pages. There are 4 colors available: yellow, blue, green, and pink, and you can use those to organize information. It's fabulous to have several different highlighter colors. Next, you can bookmark the page to include in your library. Anytime you bookmark a web page, it can be added to any lists that you've created, and it can be added to any groups that you're a part of. You can create sticky notes. Like I mentioned before, sticky notes are a virtual post-it note, and you add comments to the web pages. It's a great tool so that you can remember why you were there in the first place. And like I said before, read later is simply something you can go in. You don't have time to look at it right now, so you're going to go ahead and mark it to read later. So now we're going to look at a demonstration of how to do bookmarking, highlighting, and sticky notes. Now we're going to talk about lists. There are basic features of a list. There are the bookmark pages, including the highlights. You can create sections to organize information. You'll see in the screen that we're going to do next that there are actually several sections to my biology list because I wanted to break it up into the different units that the class was going to be using. So I created sections so they'll be able to access that easily. There's a comments area where you or other people that have access to that list can actually leave comments. It's a good way to have a mini discussion about things. And then there's a listing of the tags used when you do your list. So that way you can go in and do further search. You can edit the tags if you need to. So here's a screenshot of the basic features of a list. This is my list of biology resources. Right here is the bookmark with the highlight that we created earlier. Here are the different sections. There's a genetics section, and there's a cell reproduction section on the bottom. The cell reproduction section doesn't have any bookmarks for it yet, but you can create the sections and then add the bookmarks to it at a later point. There's the comments. You don't see the box on the bottom there, but there's a whole box there for comments. And the tags that are used. This is a fairly new list, so there's only 3 tags, but it will list all of them if you need it. So now we're going to see a short demonstration on how to create a list in Diigo. These are the basic features of a group. Again, a group in Diigo is something that you create so that you can have several students or teachers or parents or any number of people collaborate on a project together. They can all bookmark resources right to a group, and anyone in the group can see it. There's a group name and avatar. Diigo does have a default avatar. It's a little world with people around it, but you can change that if you wanted to add your own personalized avatar. There are all the bookmarks with the highlights and the sticky notes attached. You'll remember in the list you could only see the highlights. Now you have the sticky notes that you can also add. There is a topic button. Now the topic button is great because it's a way to create a conversation within your group. You can actually start a topic, add a description to it, and people can start talking about it amongst the group members. And it's an interesting way to start conversations about subjects and perhaps gives people a way to think about things. There's also the most active members in the group and the top 10 tags that are used within your group. So now let's look at what these might look like. Here are the basic features of a group. At the top here, you're going to notice there's your group name and your avatar. This is a class, a biology class. And remember I said the default avatar was the world with the little people around it. Here are all your bookmarks with the highlights and the sticky notes. your topic button that I just talked about, where you can create a conversation within your group. These are your most active members. Right now, this group only has one member, me. And then there are the top 10 tags, and I've only done one bookmark in this group, so there's only 3 tags. But it'll give you a real idea of what people are tagging their information with. So now we'll have a brief demonstration on how to create a group in Diigo. I want to discuss managing group members. In the previous demonstration, we actually chose how people were going to become a part of this group. And the thing that we chose is that people were going to request access to the group. So when you're managing your group members, this is the screen that's going to appear. And there are several features that I want you to pay close attention to. Be sure to check your pending memberships and invitations on a regular basis, daily, multiple times a day, whatever works for you. If a student has requested access to your group, you want to make sure that you are giving them that access as soon as possible. Also, you want to check at open invitations. If you sent out an invitation to a student and they haven't responded, then that's probably an indication that you need to take that student aside and really let them know that they need to do what they have to do to get to be part of this group. All member contributions can be tracked under the bookmarks and topics column, right there. The bookmarks and topics column will let you know what that group member is doing, how many bookmarks they've made, comments, topics. It's a good way to keep track of things, especially if you're using Diigo to grade anything like participation. And finally, I want you to note 2 buttons at the top, the ban this member button and the remove this member button. These are important in case you accidentally give access to somebody who should not have had access. These are also important for people who are leaving inappropriate comments, introducing inappropriate content. These are important things to be part of, especially if you create a group that has community members or parents. Some people might take advantage of the situation and actually put a lot of inappropriate content on there. So it's important to know that you have those options to be able to ban members. Here are some tips for when you use Diigo and when you're creating an account. You'll want to use your school email address when creating your account. You can create a personal address, but if you use your school address, then you have the possibility of creating an educator account, which will give you access to more features and more advanced features in Diigo. And you'll want to think about creating an educator account. One of the advanced features that you have access to is you can create groups, and you can create usernames that don't require an email address. And this would be important for your students if they don't have access to student email, or if they don't have access to personal email. They can still contribute to the group and have their own name. And while using Diigo, you might want to search for groups that discuss topic of interest for you. If you're a biology teacher, by all means, find biology groups that could give you access to new information. That way you can share it with your students. This also works for personal information. My mother has a whole knitting site that she has dedicated to this. So for more information, please feel free to visit the Diigo list that I created about Diigo in the classroom. The web link is right there, so you can either copy it or you can click on it in this presentation and it'll take you right to it. Are there any questions that I can answer for you? I wanted to thank you all for coming and spending time listening to me gab about Diigo. If you have any questions or concerns, you can contact me at my email address. It's right there at the top of the screen. I do offer one-on-one tutorials, so if you need extra help with one thing, please feel free to contact me. I'd be happy to help you out. I will do advanced tutorials. Like I mentioned, I plan on doing another development class that focuses on the advanced features of Diigo. And of course, I'm always available for class presentations on how to do this. So feel free to schedule a time, bring in your class, and I'll show them how to use Diigo.